Welcome back. It is time for the final showdown, part one. Subaru walks up to the cave to meet Betelgeuse. This time he tries to act as though he is interested in joining the cult and performing the ordeal. Betelgeuse ends up relaying some important information. It's the same info that's in the light novel in the last loop. They need to test Amelia to see if she will work as a vessel for the Witch of Envy. To them, Amelia was nothing more than a box into which they could stuff the soul of the witch. They were after a container. This was bottomless contempt for Amelia as an individual girl, and to Subaru, whose heart was greatly swayed by her existence, a humiliation difficult to endure. Monster. Betelgeuse did not notice that for a single moment, a single word, Subaru let his true feelings slip. The same thing happens in the anime, but I like how the light novel puts it better. Subaru is pretending to be on the cult's side, but when he realizes how little they care about Amelia, he can't help but drop the act for a second. Subaru keeps asking to become a finger, and I get it, he's doing it to try to get all buddy-buddy with Betelgeuse, but it seems like such a terrible idea. We don't know how long it takes for someone to become a finger, and Betelgeuse is fucking nuts. So there is a chance that he just walks up to Subaru and does it. Betelgeuse has a habit of biting his fingers like hard enough that they break bones, or banging his head on the ground until he bleeds. And Subaru realizes that it's even more fucked up than he originally thought. It's not his body. He possesses people and forces them to self-mutilate. I mean, it's not them doing it, it's him doing it to himself, but it's their body, and he doesn't care what happens to it. If something goes wrong with it, he can just get another body. Something I missed in the last loop. Subaru actually commented on how he felt when his body was being taken over. He said there was an overwhelming desire to destroy himself or everyone around him. Was that urge a darkness that enveloped Betelgeuse around the clock? Immersed in such madness, he injured himself to maintain his sanity. So I don't think it's as simple as saying that he mutilates bodies simply because he can. But I think this will come up more when I talk about authorities, so I'm just going to wait and talk about it then. Show me your gospel. Subaru pulls out the media used by the spy and opens it. Oh, I see him. His face looks just as scary as I heard. While Betelgeuse is distracted, Patrichet runs in and headbutts him, sending him flying. Patrichet is apparently an expert at sneak attacks. This isn't the first time, and it won't even be the last. Betelgeuse is furious and tries to attack with unseen hand, but misses. How? How can you see my authority? Who knows? Ask the witch that left her scent all over me. Oh, that's right. Unlike me, you haven't received the pass that lets you meet the witch any time. We're so close, she grabbed my heart. Literally. I feel like Subaru has let out a fuck ton of information that should have made the witch all grabby. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this before, but I think that since he didn't mention Return by Death specifically, then the witch hands don't come out. At this point in the light novel, Betelgeuse notices that his power has increased. That weird clump of mana that Felix found on the finger is probably a part of the authority. With all the fingers killed, Betelgeuse now has all the pieces of the authority. It does make him stronger, but he also realizes that he is the only one left. I mean, he doesn't say all of this, but I think it's pretty obvious. Subaru and Patrichet make a run for it. Betelgeuse won't let them escape. He follows in the air using the unseen hands. Other cultists run in to attack Subaru. At the last second, Mimi and Tibi blast them away. Since they can't see the hands, this is how they see Betelgeuse. They say it looks creepy as fuck, but to me it looks hilarious. The anime makes it look like he's just being carried by a hand. And maybe the other hands are like walking on the ground or something. I don't know, it's not clear. The light novel makes it seem like he is playing catch with himself. A hand throws him, and then he and his hands go flying, and then a hand catches him, and the process repeats. And this sounds like something Betelgeuse would do. Leave it to me. Watch the rear like we planned. Got it. Beat him now and you'll look awesome. So this is all part of the plan? To just piss off Sloth and have him chase Subaru to a certain area, and then the other cultists will chase after them too and get picked off by the Iron Fang. I mean, I feel like they could have come up with something better. I I guess it's not a terrible plan. The entire point is to get Sloth separated out from the other cultists, which, I mean, it does work out that way. It just kind of seems like there's a lot that could go wrong here. None of this is in the gospel, in the guide to my destiny. Then, you truly are Pride. My name is Subaru Natsuki, the silver-haired half-elf Amelia's knight. I don't know anything about this Pride stuff, but that's the only title that I want. It's pretty apparent that the gospel says something about the future, but it seems like it doesn't say anything about the other archbishops. At least that's the way Betelgeuse is treating it. I wonder if the archbishops aren't bound by the events that are written in the book. I think more likely it works like Subaru's ability. Knowing the future allows you to change it. So if all the archbishops have a gospel, they would all know the future, which means that they wouldn't show up in the gospel. That is 100% just a guess. I haven't put enough thought into this to figure out whether or not it actually fits. I know that other members of the cult get gospels too, so there's already something there that doesn't fit. Maybe the archbishops are the only one that get the future diaries version of the gospel. I don't know. I'll think about it more. I'm sure we'll get more info on the gospels, so we can always just work through this theory as we go. They finally get to their destination, a cliff with spikes at the bottom. It's the place that Subaru committed suicide in the last arc. Specifically, this was when Rem died in her sleep, and Ram blamed Subaru for it, so she was trying to kill him, and then Beatrice came and stopped her, but Subaru decided to jump off the cliff so he could reset. If your goal was to lead me out here, what have you prepared for me? What else? Your natural enemy, one you and I have in common. Julius jumps down from the top and joins them. A spirit user, are you? Is this all part of your plot? I have never known such humiliation. In the last loop, the second Sloth freaked out about seeing a spirit. That, along with other clues, hint that Julius is the direct counter to Sloth. And we'll discuss this more a little later. Let's do it, Julius. Are you sure? I am the man who brutally beat you. I still believe my behavior was backed by meaning and reason, but that is no more than self-righteousness so far as you're concerned. Can you trust me? I hate you. I can hardly stand the sight of you, greatest knight. So, I will trust you. My shame attests to the knowledge that you are indeed an incredible knight. Then, with all my soul, I shall live up to that. What do you expect adding a single spirit arts user to your ranks will do? I will pass judgment upon you both, tear apart those who remain, and resume the ordeal. That is all. The unseen hands race towards Julius, but he slices through them. My unseen hand can be seen. You shouldn't be able to see it. And not by one, but two other people than me. I'm the only one that can see it, Betelgeuse. Julius is using Nect to link with Subaru, allowing him to see what Subaru sees. God damn it, Subaru, stop monologuing. Why would you give away the fact that Betelgeuse just needs to focus you to win? Luckily, Sloth is an idiot, and he doesn't really put much effort into trying to kill Subaru, so Julius is able to protect him. Before, they were using Nect to just share thoughts, but this time they're using it to share senses. Subaru compares it to having 10 senses, or basically all of his senses are doubled, which would be a really weird feeling. So both of them would be seeing double, but Julius decides to close his eyes so that they can both rely on Subaru's vision. And that is very risky for Julius since, Subaru can just blink at the wrong time and fuck him over. This means that Julius is fighting some action RPG where the camera is stuck on some NPC that's watching the fight. And that's gotta be hard as fuck. And it does end up getting him hurt, like from at the beginning of the fight, but he does eventually get used to it and is able to fight back a little more. With your eyes, I shall strike him down, Subaru Natsuki, my friend. This is just my opinion, but I don't think they like each other. But I also think they like each other. I joked before that they are frenemies, and the more they're around each other, the more I think that that's actually true. Julius is a knight who is very much all about playing the knightly part. Everybody knows him and knows that he is a great man and holds him in high esteem. And that is what Subaru wants. He wants to be seen as a great man. That's what got him into all the shit that happened at the beginning of the arc. Subaru is a nobody who has been able to accomplish things that no one else has been able to do. Julius said at the Capitol that one can't rise above their rank or something like that. And here Subaru is proving him wrong by accomplishing things that Julius couldn't. Both of them see something in the other person that they desire for themselves, but they can't get past their first impressions of each other. So there's a mix of emotions, coveting and disgust. It's time I finished you once and for all. Julius jumps into the air to avoid the hands, pulls his sword in and prepares a spell. Owl Clauseria. A ray of multicolored lights shoots from his sword, blowing away the hands and sending Sloth flying into a rock. I do want to take a second to talk about this attack. It's basically a combo move from all 6 of his spirits. Each one of them sends out a ray of light and they combine into one strong attack. And since it's made up of every element, it's really hard to block. This is how Julius fights. He's got good swordsmanship, and he combines it with the rainbow attacks to overwhelm the enemy. And considering Julius is a little bit vain, this flashy way of fighting fits his personality pretty well. As soon as Julius lands, he goes in for the kill. Betelgeuse tries to encase himself in rock, but Subaru throws a magic stone and the rock barrier explodes, letting Julius slip in to pierce Betelgeuse. You lost because you belittled him as powerless. That's what I'm saying. Subaru basically told him how they were able to fight back, and Sloth did nothing about it. Well, not nothing, but basically nothing. I think it's more that Betelgeuse just doesn't actually know how to fight. He's so used to using his authority that if it doesn't work, then he doesn't have a plan B. The order of events is slightly different than light novel, and I think it makes a little more sense. Julius rushes Betelgeuse, causing him to throw up the rock wall to protect himself. Julius makes it to the wall, and Sloth decides to attack with his hands over the wall so that he can basically fight from safety. At that point, Subaru throws the stone to blow up the wall. The anime makes it seem like Subaru is full on ready for this, and he throws the stone before Julius even makes it to the wall, and that is giving Subaru far too much credit. Him waiting and seeing that the rush attack fails and then throwing makes more sense to me. I will not let it end. I have been nothing but diligent. As a last-ditch effort, Betelgeuse tries to possess Subaru. Julius ends next so that he isn't caught up in the possession. I'll play along with you, just this once. I can return by death. Time stops. This was the plan? How the fuck did he explain that to everybody? There's no way he did. The witch hands would have stopped him. More than likely, he just said that he had a plan and then fucking moved on. So in the light novel, there are more steps that happen after he's possessed, and I definitely want to talk about them. First, Felix uses his ability to stunlock Subaru's body. It's the same thing that he did in the last loop. He does this to loosen Sloth's grip on the body and to prevent him from attacking. Since Felix can do this from any distance, they use the Metia as a signal for him to activate the ability. That's the reason why he was on screen earlier. They were pretty much just setting up for this. More importantly, Subaru decides to reveal the information that he's learned. Betelgeuse is a spirit. Yeah, it should have been pretty obvious at this point. I don't know why the anime decided to leave out that detail. The way this ability works is that he forces a pact onto someone. This is how he controls them. And it doesn't work on just anyone. They have to have at least some affinity to spirits, hence the fingers. And then he takes some of the authority and puts it into their bodies so that he can transfer himself remotely. Since this is a forced pact, he can't override a formal pact. And that's why he hates spirits and spirit users. That's why Julius is his mortal enemy. Betelgeuse can't possess Julius because he has formal pacts already. It can override temporary pacts, which is what happened with Ia in the last loop. This is why that he likes Subaru's body so much. Subaru has a very high affinity to spirits, and he doesn't have a contract with anyone, which is the reason why he says it fits him so well. Betelgeuse finds himself in the void. He can't fully see the figure in front of him, but he recognizes the feeling. This is the one he has served with everything he had. The witch's hands reach out to him, but they slip right through. No, you are not the one. The possession fails, and Subaru is back to normal. Why? Why? After everything I've done for you? The unseen hand comes out, hitting the cliff, sending boulders flying. One of them lands on Betelgeuse, crushing his head. The Archbishop is dead. In the light novel, Betelgeuse's experience is closer to what Subaru goes through when he is in the void. There is no body or anything, it's just his mind. And this doesn't really change a whole lot to the story, but instead of seeing her slap the fuck out of him, we hear her outright reject him more. The witch is confused. This is wrong. You are not him. Betelgeuse feels her anger build. Why is someone not him here, in our place? Be gone. He's just not that guy. Honestly, both versions work well enough, but I like this version better. I think it does a better job of showing Betelgeuse that not only is he not special, he's not wanted. So, what was Julius thinking during all of this? Did he not hear Subaru say that he was going to let Betelgeuse meet the witch? Or hear him freak out about being forsaken by the witch? Like, I can't imagine he just went deaf and didn't hear any of this going on. Except both versions act like that's what happens. Once again, Subaru gets a hold of the gospel. While he's flipping through the book, Julius gets a call from Felix with some bad news. They rush back to the village. The firestones that were in the merchant's inventory are gone. Someone left the magic stones on board when they loaded the villagers. There are enough magic stones to easily blow away a small village. Subaru suddenly remembers the last loop. The spy had used the stones after he got caught. I'm actually going to cut Subaru some slack here. They learned that the fingers have some ritual spell attached to them that causes them to explode, so it makes sense that he would assume that's what caused the explosion and didn't look for any other cause. I think in the last loop, the cult's plan got cut short because they got found, and that caused the explosion to be a little smaller. I don't know. Something is different this time, but maybe that's just my speculation based on what happens later. That carriage is now being used to carry Amelia and the kids. They have to catch up to them before the stones go off. Felix, could a land dragon catch up to them? Once they leave the Mather's domain and get on the Leaf House Highway, it'll be hard to catch them. May I say something? To tell you the truth, I'm in a pretty desperate position right now. If you would accept a trade, I promise to catch up with the carriage that... Let's do it. Subaru agrees before hearing anything else, and they prepare to leave. His conditions are to buy his stuff at asking price and to let him meet Roswaal. I mean, he's a merchant, so getting in good with the lord of a domain is a great way to make connections for future business. Julius lets Subaru borrow the spirit Ia again. She should be able to locate the stones on the wagon. With his injuries and lack of mana, he can't join them himself. Subaru, Patrichet, Otto, and his ground dragon race towards the caravan. Otto has his divine protection of soul language. This lets him speak with any creature. Traveling the roads would take too long, so they are taking shortcuts by listening to the creatures around them. Shortcuts probably shouldn't be taken. Across water, down cliffs, over falling bridges. At this rate, we're seriously gonna die. What is this? I feel a wind hitting me. Honestly, even I didn't know I was capable of this. In case it wasn't clear, this is how Otto got caught in the first place. He was trying to take shortcuts through the forest to get to the village faster and strolled up on a group of cultists. Wait, what is it? What's wrong? The birds and the bugs began to make a lot of noise, and then they just vanished. Something is coming. Subaru sees it behind them. Betelgeuse. He looks a lot more like a corpse being puppeted by the unseen hands. What about you makes you sloth? You're a freaking workaholic. Actually, very good point to bring up, but I want to save it for the authority video. The anime has him bloated like the unseen hands is actually a giant unseen body, and we only ever see the hands. I think the light novel is closer to what I would have expected. It's more like his dead body is being pulled and pushed along by the hands. Subaru throws pots at Betelgeuse. They burst and oil begins to cover him. Subaru takes Iya and casts a spell, setting Betelgeuse on fire. He says the name of the spell is Rental Goa, which I think normally it would be El Goa or one of the other versions of it. And he just substituted in Rental since it's not technically his spell that he's using. And admittedly, the stupid naming that he does is starting to grow on me. Even on fire, Betelgeuse is not giving up. He grabs onto the carriage and pulls himself closer. If you had stayed a monster, you might have beaten me. Subaru pulls out the gospel and throws it. This line makes more sense in the light novel. Up until this point, Betelgeuse has pretty much been lost in madness, and at that moment, he starts to get his sanity back. He realizes that Subaru is a threat to the witch cult, and that if he is left alive, he could end up destroying them one day. So instead of focusing on getting a hold of his body, he switches to trying to kill him. But because he is sane enough now, he notices the gospel and goes to save it instead of trying to kill Subaru, which is what he would have done if he was still lost in madness. So, ironically, him thinking has fucked him over. Betelgeuse stops his attack and focuses on the book. Subaru takes the opening and punches him in the face. Betelgeuse lets go of the carriage, knocking the book back at Subaru. I call bullshit on that. While trying to catch back up, he gets a hand stuck in the wheel and is dragged behind the wagon. His body erodes away as it rips and tears against the ground. Before another hand can reach Subaru, his body fully disappears. Betelgeuse is no more. I also want to call bullshit on that. But I'm very ready for him to be dead, so I guess I'll accept it. Also, Betelgeuse is for real dead this time. Not dead until he finds another body. He doesn't have another body to latch onto, so he is now for real dead. For now. Nope. I'm just kidding. He is actually dead. No jokes. With one threat taken care of, Subaru and Otto turn their attention to the field in front of them. A battle is taking place. The witch cult is attacking the caravan of villagers. They see Wilhelm, and he points them in Emilia's direction as he kills any cultist that tries to attack them. This is the perfect chance to repay my debt. Who could stand in the way of a man on his way to see a woman? Somehow, Wilhelm just keeps getting better in my eyes. I can't be the only one, though. I can't be the only one over here fangirling over Wilhelm. The kids hang on to Emilia as the battle takes place behind them. The wind blessing from the dragon was not working. They had stopped for a break when the cult approached and didn't have time to allow the blessing to return. Now they feel everything that happens to the cart as they run. Puck has concluded that Wilhelm can handle the cult, so there's no need for Emilia to take action. Don't worry, whatever happens, I'll protect you. We're fine. We made a promise, so this is nothing. A promise that we won't let you go. Because if we aren't with you, you'll do something crazy. Huh? Who told you that? Don't tell her. Subaru. Subaru said it. He said you get lonely easily, so he was worried. Wait, we weren't supposed to tell her that. Puck starts to connect the dots. If Subaru is leading, it would make sense why Ram and the villagers didn't argue against leaving. Emilia has had Subaru on her mind since this morning, and she's probably unconsciously realized that this whole scenario is something that Subaru would have his hand in. I've just been kind of skipping over all of it. The light novel does get into Emilia's thoughts on the situation that happened at the Capitol, but I'm gonna wait and talk about that a little later. Puck is giving her information on what's happening at the battle and all that stuff, but really he already knows, like, pretty much everything that's going on. I think he's just been drip feeding her information on purpose just so that she slowly figures out what's going on without him outright telling her what's going on. Emilia's wagon suddenly screeches to a halt. Subaru jumps in, leaving everyone shocked to see him. Small difference here. In the anime, Emilia is on the ground with the kids. In the light novel, she is up, standing in front of the kids to protect them because they don't know who is coming. I'm going to keep harping on this. In both versions, they treat Emilia like she is useless. But in the light novel, they at least show that she has some potential and some drive to do something. As soon as a threat shows up, she is up and ready to face it. Whereas in the anime, she is still on her ass and confused. If it had actually been a threat, she would have been fucked. And I really wish the anime would have went with that version instead. It would have been a little change that they could have done to show that Emilia has some potential to stand up for herself. But instead, they show her as weak and useless. But that's just my opinion. Without saying a word, he starts to tear up the floor until he finds the bag of firestones. There isn't much time left. They're already glowing and starting to smoke. He pulls it out and jumps back on Patrochet. Wait, Subaru, why? I love you, Emilia. Subaru turns and they run off. Man, the anime was speed running this shit. So in the light novel, Ia shows him which wagon that they're in, and then she shows him where the stones are at in the cabin. And Subaru has Puck actually freeze the wood so that he can smash through it and get the bag out. He tries to get Puck to handle the stones, but at that point, the only thing that he could really do is suppress the explosion. And the only way for him to do that was to turn into his big giant form. Subaru thinks that him turning into his big scary form is going to hurt Emilia's reputation with the villagers, so he decides against it. And I think that is a stupid thing to care about given the circumstances. Subaru heads towards the fallen tree, and more importantly, the remains of the white whale. Remember that Crochet couldn't get the whole body out from under the tree, so they just end up cutting off the head and dragging that back to the capital. But the rest of the body is still there. One little detail that I never noticed before, they actually freeze the whale's body to prevent it from rotting. And it's never brought up or never said in the anime at all, but you can 100% see it. He gets to the body and chunks the bag inside, hoping that it will lessen the explosion. As they run away, the stones erupt. Even though they made it a good distance away, it's not enough. Patrochet wraps herself around Subaru as they're caught in the explosion. This is a big ass explosion, and it would have 100% killed everybody in the caravan if Subaru hadn't gotten there in time. In the last loop, the explosion's big, but I don't think it's this big. So my guess is that in the last loop, they didn't have time to charge. The spy got caught, so he just kind of set the explosion off immediately, and it was a big explosion, but not as big. And then in this loop, they were on a timer so that they would go off on the way to the capital, and that gave them more time to charge. Also, Patrochet is scoring some points here. I need like a fucking whiteboard, that way I can keep track of all the waifus and just kind of tally up all their points as we go. I'm not doing that. That's stupid. Have I made this joke already? I feel like I made this joke already. Oh well. In the light novel, Subaru goes back to the void. Don't worry, he's not dead. Something a little different does happen this time, though. As per usual, he is a disembodied mind being drawn towards the voice of a mysterious woman in darkness who is repeating her love for him. And there's also a woman that is covered in light that is calling him back. The whispers of love repeat over and over, whereas the call of his name contained a simple plea. Remember who you are. Remember what you have to do. Remember the words you must exchange in the world where you belong. He couldn't stay here. Next time, I'll probably come to meet you. Subaru's mind was enveloped by light that blotted out the world of darkness. As it slowly melted away, I'll be waiting. If we take this as the Dark Lady being Satella, then that would mean that the Light Lady is Emilia. At least that's what it seems like to me. I'm not sure just yet what implications this is going to have on the actual story. I can see it being evidence that this is two different people pulling on Subaru's subconscious, but that may be a bit of a stretch. As much as I hate the Emilia is Satella theory, I don't think this is good evidence against it. Subaru wakes up in a field with his head on Emilia's lap. He's been out for about an hour or two. Patrochet is burned, but she's getting healed by Felix, so she'll be fine. Everyone is saved. The anime downplays Patrochet's protectiveness of Subaru. She doesn't let anyone near him until Otto comes over and convinces her that it's okay. Subaru is ready to have a serious talk with Amelia. You said you saved me because I saved you, but I haven't done anything like that. I've never been able to. You're the one who's always saving me. I never could do anything for you, and yet you get yourself hurt and said it was for my sake. I said it was all for you when I was really just drunk on the idea of doing it for you. I had it in my mind that if I said that, you'd accept it. I'm sorry. I used you for my own self-satisfaction. Everything you said back then was true. I was wrong. But there is one thing I wasn't wrong about. I want to help you. I honestly meant that. I know. Why do you always save me? Because I love you, and I want to be your strength. I'm a silver-haired half-elf, and many people hate me because I look like the witch. I don't have much experience with people, so I don't have any friends. I'm naive and lack common sense in a lot of ways, so I say strange things sometimes. And the reason I want to be the kingdom's ruler is really, really selfish. No matter what anyone says about you, no matter what you think about yourself, I love you. If you name 10 things you hate about yourself, I'll list 2,000 things I love about you. That's the kind of special treatment I want to give you. This is the first time I've received special treatment that made me happy. What should I do? You've told me so many of your feelings, but I don't know what to do. You don't have to stress over it. I'm not demanding an answer right away. Is it really alright for someone like me to be given such happiness all the time? I actually feel like it's indulgent. Sure it is. Go on and be indulgent. You can never have too much happiness. And if you have so much that it overflows, you can always share it. As I walk by your side, I'll do my best to make you fall head over heels for me. Thank you, Subaru, for saving me. So much to say here. First off, he fucking did it. Finally, after all this bullshit, he finally saved everyone. Well, everyone important anyway. I love seeing the growth that Subaru has gone through in this arc. Who he is at the beginning is so different than who he is at the end. And one of these days, he might be a functioning human being. But seriously, him being able to admit his own faults is such a huge step forward. I mean, it doesn't magically fix everything about him. I'm sure he'll still be annoying in the future. But who he is at the end is already more bearable than who he was at the beginning. Amelia seems to recognize something that I brought up earlier. She says, I haven't done anything. I've never been able to. She is constantly held back by everyone around her, and she hasn't done anything herself, and she knows it. And hopefully this is something that is brought back up later. For instance, in the next arc. I will give props to Subaru for actually confessing his feelings to Amelia. He struggled with this at the beginning of the arc and finally manned up by the end. And I actually really like how this whole confession was handled. And surprisingly, I think the anime handles it a little bit better. But Subaru is very open about his feelings, and Amelia doesn't completely reciprocate it. She spent so much of her life being hated by everyone that she doesn't want to get close to anyone. And that's the reason why she's so confused by Subaru's actions and why she is more concerned with pushing him away. She is really happy that he feels that way about her, but she doesn't know if she feels the exact same way about him. Mainly because this is the first time anything like this has ever happened to her. And Subaru goes out of his way to make sure that she doesn't feel forced to say something that she's not comfortable with saying. That does mean that the arc kind of ends on uncertain terms, but there's plenty of story left. There's no need to rush into any romantic relationship, and there is good reason for them to take things slow. Reasons that will be covered when you're older. Yeah, you thought I forgot about that fucking joke, didn't you? Well, I did. For now, they've made up and they are back to normal. Well, actually a little better than normal. And this is kind of the MO for Subaru. It's one step back and two steps forward, and eventually we'll get, I don't know, somewhere. Amelia does a quick drive-by here, saying that her reasons for wanting to become ruler are selfish, and the only reasons that she has given so far is that she wants peace and harmony for everyone, or something along those lines. The actual reason that she wants to become ruler is kind of tied into her past, and that hasn't really been brought up yet. We'll get more into that later. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into some totals. Alright, let's start off with the different loops here. I'm really hoping that I got all these numbers right. There's a chance that I fucked something up at some point, so if something is wrong, please let me know. So the first day that I'm counting for this is the first day of this arc. It's not the end of the last arc because there's a little bit of time in between the end of the second arc and the beginning of the third arc. So day one is the start of this arc, and the reset point is going to be on day six, which means there's 5 days between the start and the reset point being set. That'll be important for our totals here in a minute. So on the first loop, we have the reset point on day 6, and then his death happened, I'm saying day 10, probably nearing the end of day 10, which would mean there are 4 days there that he lived in between the reset point and his death. And there's a reason that I'm separating this out, and I'll explain it here in a bit. So on loop 2, it's pretty much the same thing. I think he dies a little bit later in loop 2 since the whole event, so like everything's starting to freeze over by that point in the second loop. So it's a tad bit later, but I'm pretty sure it's the same day. So that means both loop 1 and loop 2 have 4 days in them from the reset point to the time of death, or rough numbers, obviously. On loop 3, he actually leaves the capital a little sooner, which also means he ends up dying a little sooner. And from the reset point to the day that he dies is only 2 days. So we'll go ahead and switch over here to the fourth loop. And this is where he actually starts making some progress. But the whale hunt happens super early in the morning, and then the witch cult hunt, the village attack, and him dying, all of that happens on the same day. So he actually only makes it 2 days into the fourth loop. And I went ahead and threw the fifth loop on here. There's really not a whole lot happens since the reset point gets moved, but I kind of wanted to throw it on here just so we have a little bit of a reference, because all of that, everything that happens in the fifth loop here, all happens on the same day. So taking all those numbers and putting them into this chart here, remember this is the number of days Subaru has spent in this world, basically. I just kind of squished in the first and second arc here just so we have those totals without having this be super long. So we have the first arc, the second arc, and then the days before this arc actually starts. And then the before the reset, that's the days from the beginning of this arc to the reset day, which happened on the 6th day, which means 5 days have passed since the first day. Man, I made this confusing. And then every single loop we have on there. So the total days that Subaru has spent in this world is about 65-ish days. I'm going to go ahead and be completely honest. I am starting to question why I am even making this chart here. I have no idea what this is going to end up equating to at all. But for now, I'm still just going to go ahead and keep track of all these numbers, and we'll see if it means anything. If we're looking at the world totals, then from the end of the second arc to the beginning of the third arc is roughly 21 days. And then the third arc was only 7 days. I know that sounds crazy because I think some of the early loops he was dying on the 10th day, but the one successful loop that he had was a total of 7 days. So the third arc, from the world's perspective or whatever, only took 7 days. And in that 7 days, he died 4 times. Which, honestly, looking at his previous loops here, I mean, I'm kind of making some improvements here. Last arc, he died 4 times in 5 days. This time, he had the same amount of deaths in 7 days. So it's a little bit of improvement, I guess. And since we're talking about the world perspective, let's go ahead and do the quick summary of the successful loop. And I am just going to go ahead and copy paste in the last summary from the last arc. That way I can skip all that. Subaru goes to the store, ends up in another world, talks to a merchant, runs off down an alley, gets cornered by thieves, yells for help, gets help, runs to Felt's house, goes to the loot house with Felt. Amelia shows up, Elsa shows up, shit happens, Reinhardt shows up, shit ends, Subaru gets cut, faints, wakes up in a mansion, gets a job, works himself sick, takes a nap, goes shopping, sucks at dog training, sucks out the venom, takes a hike to save some kids, becomes a chew toy, wakes up, takes a hike to save a demon, rediscovers the power of telling the truth, fights a demon using a demon, thinks about his life choices far too late, and is saved by a flying clown. Gets some exercise, goes back to the capital, crashes a fancy party, is cringe, gets ass beat, ruins relationship, deals with depression, tries to run away, gets saved by an angel, loves Amelia, convinces non-Japanese people to kill a whale, runs around in circles until a tree falls, hires mercenaries to kill a religious group, forces villagers to leave their homes, captures a spy, picks a fight with an insane man, runs away, gets someone else to fight his own fights, has a deep connection with another man, kills an insane old guy. Oh shit, there's a bomb. Takes a stroll through the woods, punches a corpse, robs a wagon caravan, blows up a whale carcass, flirts with a girl. And that is it for this arc. And honestly, this is one of my least favorite arcs. Mostly because of Subaru at the beginning, but he does eventually redeem himself. And in my opinion, I think it only gets better from here, but we'll see. Anyway, that's it. See ya.